Hello and welcome to the evening news. My name is Dino. And here is the stories. Police in St. James arrested a man suspected of murdering another man on Claude Clark Avenue in Montego Bay, St. James, as he allegedly attempted to flee the scene on Wednesday. The Montego Bay police say about 6:30 p.m., residents saw the suspect stabbing 43-year-old Lincoln Green and alerted the police. The police team responded and accosted the suspect as he allegedly tried to escape from the scene. The suspect's identity is being withheld pending further investigations. Green, who is a bar manager, was found on his veranda in a pool of blood with multiple stab wounds to his upper body. He was taken to the hospital, where he pronounced dead. Reggae Girls stranded amid Sangster runway closure. Members of the Reggae Girls team are among passengers who have been left stranded because of the temporary closure of the runway at the Sangster International Airport in St. James. 4 members of the delegation were expected to arrive at 1 p.m. on Thursday on a United Airlines flight from Newark Airport in the United States. However, their flight is now scheduled to depart on Friday at 6 a.m. A flight from Houston with other members of the team is also canceled and will depart at 6 a.m. on Friday. The members of the team are returning home following their participation in the FIFA Women's World Cup in Australia, where they created history. In a group that included France and Brazil, they sent the latter home en route to becoming the first Caribbean nation in tournament history to advance to the round of 16. However, Jamaica were edged 1-0 by Colombia in their knockout round encounter. Hanover Police Superintendent urges residents to question sudden visits from family members. Hanover, Jamaica. Head of the Hanover Police Division Superintendent Sharon Beepit says residents should start inquiring about the reason behind sudden visits from family members who reside outside of the parish, as she believes that Hanover is often used as a hiding place for people involved in criminal activities. The superintendent made the remarks while reporting on the murder of 2 construction workers and the injury of 3 other men when a gunman opened fire at a group of people who were standing at a jerk center in Green Island, Hanover on Tuesday around 8 p.m. The deceased men have been identified as 27-year-old Ayon Richards and 27-year-old O'Neill Spencer. Both men are laborers from Mavis Bank in St. Andrew. No motives have been found for the killing. However, Superintendent Beepit disclosed that her team is carrying out an intensive search in relation to the crime. She stated that the investigation is still pretty young, but they have already taken in a few persons of interest. Superintendent Beepit told Observer Online that with Hanover being bordered by St. James and Westmoreland, parishes which usually have high crime rates, people often escape to the parish to stay with relatives and hide. She added that the people who they may have escaped from often pursue them into Hanover, resulting in murder or other criminal activities. We are bordered by 2 parishes that a lot of activities take place, and persons are pushed from St. James and they are pushed from Westmoreland into our space, so you find sometimes that some relatives are very accommodating and they take in these persons from various communities, Superintendent Beepit said. Whenever things play out, because when they accepted them in their communities, they don't try to find out what it is you are running away from over in St. James, why you want to come and stay with me. Persons probably would venture into our parish and pursue those persons, and as a result of that these incidents do happen, she added. The Hanover Division boss went on to advise that residents ask questions or go to the police to have them run a background check on the visiting relatives to avoid getting hurt or killed. I believe relatives must find out from persons, unless you are a party to criminal activity, then you will accept them readily. Why do they want to come and stay at your house? Or you can contact the police and tell them what is happening. Tell them that this person is here visiting. He told you this is the situation, but you are not of the belief that this is so, and ask, could you check him out for me? And if we have that sort of cooperation from our citizens, we will have a better flow in terms of criminal activities within these spaces, Superintendent Beepit said. According to crime statistics provided by the Jamaica Constabulary Force, up to July 29, 2023, Hanover reported 39 murders. For the corresponding period, St. James reported 119, while Westmoreland reported 72. Mechanic charged in relation to Old Harbor car theft ring. Police investigators in Old Harbor, St. Catherine, on Thursday laid criminal charges against a man held in connection with the theft of several motor vehicles. 28-year-old auto mechanic Cleon Mills, otherwise called Tallman, of Gordonwood District, St. Catherine, is charged with larceny of motor vehicle and receiving stolen property. On August 1, police conducted an operation in the Gordonwood community during which 11 stolen motor vehicles were found. The police arrested Mills, who allegedly failed to account for the vehicles. The vehicles were seized and a comprehensive investigation launched, which resulted in Mills being charged. 2 more arrested in Alabama riverfront brawl that drew national attention. Montgomery, Alabama. AP, police in Alabama on Wednesday arrested 2 more boaters on misdemeanor assault charges in connection with a riverside brawl that drew national attention. Major Saba Coleman of the Montgomery Police Department said the two men turned themselves in on Wednesday to be arrested. A total of 3 men are charged in connection with an attack on a riverboat captain and another dock worker that sparked a riverside brawl in Alabama's capital city. One man turned himself in earlier in the week. The melee, where sides broke down along racial lines, began Saturday evening when a moored pontoon boat blocked the Harriet II riverboat from docking in its designated space along the city's riverfront. The riverboat co-captain took another vessel to shore to attempt to move the pontoon boat and was attacked by several white people from the private boat, police said. The video showed him being punched and shoved. Crew members and others later confronted the pontoon boat party, and more fighting broke out. The video showed people being shoved, punched, and kicked, and a black man hitting a white person with a chair. At least one person was knocked into the water. The 3 white boaters are so far the only people charged. Police have said more charges are likely as they continue to review video footage of the fight. Video of the brawl circulated on social media and put a national spotlight on Alabama's capital city. It was just absolutely unnecessary and uncalled for, Alabama Governor Kay Ivey said Wednesday of the violence that transpired. World Bank says no new funding to Uganda over anti-gay law. Kampala, Uganda. AP. The World Bank said it will not consider new loans to Uganda after the East African country earlier this year enacted an anti-gay bill that rights groups and others have condemned. The World Bank deployed a team to Uganda after the law was enacted in May and determined that additional measures were necessary to ensure projects aligned with the bank's environmental and social standards. No new public financing to Uganda will be presented to our Board of Executive Directors until the efficacy of the additional measures has been tested, the World Bank Group said in a statement on Tuesday. Our goal is to protect sexual and gender minorities from discrimination and exclusion in the projects we finance. These measures are currently under discussion with the authorities, it added. The anti-gay legislation, which prescribes the death penalty for some homosexual acts, was signed into law in May. It has widespread support at home, and Ugandan officials have been defiant amid concern that partners such as the World Bank and others might withdraw resources over the legislation. Some officials have suggested that the funding threats are inappropriate. It was not immediately possible to get a comment from Ugandan finance authorities, who for months have been trying to secure new funding from the country's top multilateral lender. The World Bank statement noted that despite the latest decision, it remains committed to helping all Ugandans, without exception, escape poverty, access vital services, and improve their lives. The UN Human Rights Office has said the Ugandan law is draconian and discriminatory, describing it as a recipe for systematic violations of the rights of LGBTQ+ people and others. The U.S. has warned of economic consequences. Activists and some academics have challenged the law in court, but it remains unclear when hearings will begin. Homosexuality is criminalized in more than 30 of Africa's 54 countries. Medical muddle Tufton cornered by rights groups over controversial HIV reporting form pullback. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton has been corralled by a consortium of 15 civil society organizations who are demanding that he provide proof to back his edict that the HIV/AIDS confidential reporting form does not comply with existing constitutional and legal requirements and should be pulled back. This after an outcry from the Love March movement, a Christian youth non-governmental organization for sexual purity and the family in Jamaica. President of the Love March movement Dr. Daniel Thomas, in a social media post on Tuesday, described the information required by the form as a bombshell and called on the Ministry of Health and Wellness (MOHW) to explain new designations on the HIV/AIDS confidential reporting form, which, instead of the generic male and female identifiers at birth, now includes other options for selection, namely male to female transgender, female to male transgender, and other, with a requirement that individuals specify what other references. How many genders do the Ministry of Health recognizes? How many genders exist? How many genders do the taxpayers and the laws of Jamaica recognize? Can the government just up and subscribe to a different philosophy that is not reality without consulting its people? Are we really in a democracy, people? The outspoken Thomas demanded. Why is it that medical professionals are being forced to take part in this way of thinking that persons can be born male but then you have to refer to them as female or that they are actually female? That is what this form is saying that the medical practitioner has to fill out. We should not be forced to take part in a delusional system of thinking. These forms our analyses, and our methods or reporting should be based in truth and reality. If it is that we want to capture the information, to know whether or not persons are suffering with gender dysphoria, we should ask them, he noted further. An HIV/AIDS confidential reporting form must be filled out when a person is confirmed with HIV infection, regardless of clinical status, for a person previously diagnosed and reported with HIV clinical stage 1 or 2 who progresses to advanced HIV infection or AIDS, and for an HIV patient regardless of clinical status who now has a CD4 count. Sources of HIV/AIDS confidential reporting forms include public, private, and non-governmental agencies that provide diagnostic and treatment services submit case reports to the National HIV Surveillance System. Treatment care and support sites are located at public health centers and hospitals throughout the country. Wednesday, the health minister, in responding to Thomas's question of whether the ministry he leads is selling out to the LGBTQ agenda, said the ministry had noted the concerns and, based on an internal review, it was agreed that the form, while supporting a detailed epidemiological profile for public health, does not comply with existing constitutional and legal structures of the government of Jamaica. As such, the health minister said the instrument will, therefore, be amended to be in full compliance. Tufton has also requested that a full review be done of all forms and instruments of data collection to ensure that there is congruence with all legal and policy directives of the government of Jamaica. The Civil Society Forum on HIV in Jamaica, however, in a swift response has questioned the reason for the sudden review and proposed adjustment of the form, while demanding to be told what on the form violates the Jamaican Constitution, is also querying the legal structures with which the form has failed to comply. According to the consortium, while the need for periodic review of data tools and processes to enhance the public health response is understood, any such adjustment should take into account global practices informed by evidence from technical public health partners and done with the full involvement of critical stakeholders. The consortium, which includes entities such as Jamaica AIDS Support for Life, Jamaica Network of Seropositives, Jamaica Community of Positive Women, Jamaicans for Justice, Jamaica Youth Advocacy Network, AIDS Healthcare Foundation, Larry Chang Foundation, Transwave Hash Company, E for Life, and others, further disputed the minister's stance that the form was inconsistent with constitutional and legal provisions. The consortium added that over the years the HIV response in Jamaica has seen the MOHU working closely with civil society organizations as well as communities and constituencies impacted by HIV/AIDS. Therefore, it is deeply disheartening that such a crucial matter, which has implications for all stakeholders, was decided without broader consultation with the HIV response community. The absence of dialogue with agencies who do provide HIV-related prevention, treatment, and care and would be well positioned to offer input can only serve to erode decades of trust and consensus building that were critical underpinnings in the reduction of new HIV infections, which declined by 62% between 2004 and 2021. The statement read, while urging the health minister to reconsider as the current approach stands at odds with the core principles of an evidence-based public health response. The IRI News Media TV attempt to reach the health minister to answer queries about when the change being disputed was made was unsuccessful. However, a ministry source with whom the newspaper spoke said it could have been inserted as far back as 2017. The IRI News Media TV own research revealed a June 2012 draft MOHU operational manual titled Guidelines for HIV Case-Based Surveillance. Under the heading Instructions for Completing HIV/AIDS Confidential Reporting Form, which directs providers on the data necessary in the forms, an insert which might explain the change now causing the firestorm was seen. The document, in designating information relating to sex as a requirement, states, this field denotes the patient's biological sex at the time of diagnosis, primarily male, M, female, F. Current sex may vary from the patient's sex at birth, for example where a patient has had sexual reassignment surgery. However, the questionnaire seen in that document, in respect of identifiers, only asked individuals to identify as male or female. Efforts to reach Acting Director of the Health Promotion and Protection Division in 2012, Dr. Kevin Harvey, who was one of 3 to sign off on the draft document, were fruitless. It is not clear when the document moved from being a draft. On Wednesday, opposition spokesman on health Dr. Maurice Guy, while noting that he was in the dark about the developments, appeared to side with his government counterpart. I would have to speak to my advisory team because it borders on not only a health concern or issue but also a constitutional or legal matter, and it would be unwise of me to comment on something I'm not too au fait with. But, to me, anything that is done ought to reflect the current laws of the country we live in, even though we live in a world where there are different assignments when it comes on to gender, Dr. Guy told the IRI News Media TV.